All right. So let's quickly go over the data types, right? Just in case if you've forgotten about it a little bit. So remember, if I want to create a string, strings have one characteristic, which is they are wrapped by quotes, single quote or double quotes, right? So let's say here's the name, right? And it could be any length. It can be a single character, or it can be like a million characters. Obviously, you don't want to create a string with million characters. The performance would be very bad, but you could. I think there's the limit is, I think, 50 million or something. I don't know. It's very long. So, but I would never recommend creating that big. The numbers are, let's say if I have an age, which is a number, right? Needs to have a numeric value. Again, strings are the only one with quotes, so you should not see any quotes, right? So that these are numbers. And you can have like, floating points. You can have like, this is also a number. You can have a minus. It can be a zero, right? They're all numbers. And then lastly, let's say Booleans have only two values, true and false, right? Again, you don't see any quotes around it. So these three are primitive data types. And there's also one more. Let's say if I create a variable, let's say X, right? And I don't set the value. This is actually a valid thing. What JavaScript does, it says, okay, you didn't set the value, which means it's going to create some dummy value, which is called undefined. And so the value of this would be undefined, right? The idea behind this is you can set the value at any point, but if you can also see if the value is undefined, you can check. Then that means that you created the variable, but you haven't assigned a value to it, right? So that means it's you can guess it based on that, right? You can also clear it using null. So you can say, let's say name equal to null. This is intentionally cleaning up the variable, right? Null means nothing. It's empty, right? Variable. So you can do that as well. Okay. So as I said, this is a string. This is a number. This is a Boolean. This is undefined, and obviously this is null. All right. So these are the primitive data types. And also the characteristic of primitive data types is you have a single value, right? As you can see, they're a single value. Complex data types have, a complex structure with multiple things inside, right? So that is a difference between primitive data types and complex data types. All right. In JavaScript, they are called objects. Also, if I want to check the type of any variable, I can do this. So if I want to check the type of name, I can say console log, and then I would wrap the name with something called type of. Okay. And when I do that, it gives me the type of name, right? So if I run this, I would get, hold on, why is it giving object? Let's just call it name1. Okay, let me reset it maybe. That's just really strange. It's supposed to be a string. That was really strange. It was something really interesting happening there. But anyway, if I want to look at the type of age, and if I run this, it should be a number, right? If I want to look at the type of is raining, which is a Boolean, that's a Boolean, right? And type of X, it's going to be undefined, right? This is undefined. Oh yeah, the reason the reason it was giving me object was because of this. Because I've set name equal to string, and then I set the value of equal to null. Again, it's really weird. The null, the data type of null is object. You know, so this is the weird thing about JavaScript. But anyway, if you understand this, then we can move forward. Any questions on this one?
I have a question. Hi. What was the question? Why did it give object? In my case, it gave me object instead of string because you set it to undefined.
Oh, the name?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I put back name here, for example, okay, and then and run this, it would give me, string, right? But if I set it to null, so if I
Yeah.
set name equal to null, right? I remember I told you that the null is a special type of an empty value, right? So the type of null is object. Okay.
Right.
That's why, because I set it as null, gave me object.
I see.
Yeah. This is one of the relics of JavaScript. And the reason it's object, I believe, is because you can set any value to null, right? It could be like, we'll learn about arrays and stuff like that. So you can set it to null, right? So it changes the type. So I think that's why null is an object. But this is the only exception, right? Undefined is undefined, but null is object. Okay. There is no data type as null because null is a value. Okay. Cool. So okay. So this we already learned this last time. Let's move to something more interesting. Type conversion. Okay. So let's understand what a type conversion is. Oftentimes you want to convert one type to another. Now these are special cases, right? Because some things you cannot convert. So for example, let's say if I have age equal to somebody, let's say defined as a string. Okay. This is a string. It's a number value. Its value is numeric value, but because I wrap with quotes, it's a string, right? Now, if I check the type of it, so if I console log type of age, I would get string, right? You can try this. Let's try this. You should get this as a string because remember, doesn't matter what the value is, as long as there are quotes around, it's a string. That's a characteristic of a string, right? So let's try that. Okay. Now, what are the situation where you get something like this? So imagine, let's say you build a website and some sort of web application, and you have an input box, right? Let's say a form where you're filling out your profile, your name, your age, your social security number. So when you read from HTML, everything comes as string. Doesn't matter if you put a numeric value, but it will still come as string, right? So in that case, you have to convert that into a number, because if you want to do calculations, you need as a numerical a number, not a string, right? Um, and that is because, remember I told you last time, if I add two strings with a numerical value, so let's say if I do console log, you know, uh, 1 plus 1, this would give me 11 because they're strings, right? And if I want to do some math, then it won't let me do that, right? So I have to actually convert this to a number, this also to a number, and then it will, give me 2, right? Because 1 plus 1 is 2. So how do we convert this age into a number? There are a couple of ways to do it, but a simplest way is, let's call this age a string, and we're going to create another variable, age number. Okay. All you have to do is put a plus sign in front of it. And this is the easiest way to convert something to a number. Okay. And then I'm going to see the type of age number now. And it would give me a number. So this is no longer a string. Just putting a plus sign does that. Okay. So that's one way of doing this. Let's all try this. So this is one way of doing this. Is it working for everyone? All right. Another way of doing this is you would literally, there's actually a function called number. So you would wrap it with number like this. Okay. I would prefer the previous method, but this is more intuitive because, you just say number and then whatever you pass, make sure it's an N capital. And then if I run this again, it would give me the same thing, right? The other one was much shorter. Just put a plus sign in front of it. What about anything that is non-numerical. So what if I put something like, you know, blah, okay. Let's say someone entered some wrong information, non-numerical value in a string, and you try to convert it. It's not going to give you an error, but there's a special type. So clear this and run this. Well, it still give you a number, but the value is different. So instead of type of, if I just simply put the value, it gets NaN. NaN is a short form for not a number. So if you try to convert a non-numerical value into a number, it will not throw an error. It would just give you a value which saying NaN. The funny thing is, if you go to type of, which is what we just did, type of NaN is a number. So NaN is a number. Okay, it's kind of weird, but this way you can actually check if something is a is not a number, right? Or it failed to convert it because of my input was not numerical. Okay, so yeah. Okay, what are the reason to convert the data types? As I said, for this particular reason, right? If you know, when you have a web application, everything that from web application comes in is always a string. No matter, let's say if I have a form, um, if I create a form with, you know, name, age, birthday, all those fields, right? Whatever user enters, it's always a string. When I read it from the form, it's always a string, which means I have to convert it to a number, right? So that's a one reason to convert a string to a number. You can also convert number to a string. Anyone know why would I convert number to a string?
If maybe if you want to concatenate.
Yep. If you want to concatenate, right? So if I want to say I am 21 years old and 21 is a number, right? I need to convert into a string and put it in the string, right? So if I just concatenate, it automatically converts into a string. But there are multiple ways to do that, right? So let's look at that. But any question on the number conversion, right? Only two things. If it's a numerical value, it's going to convert to a number of that equivalent value. Or if it's a non-numerical string, then it would give you NaN. Okay. So let's see. Let's say if I have an age number equal to 21. And if I want to convert age string, right, I'm just going to give the name so I know what type it is. There are a couple ways to do it. One is you can you can do this. You can do, okay. You can do this. So all of these conversion, you can simply use that. Hold on, there's a phone coming. Okay. So if I want to convert something to string, I can use string. If I want to convert something to a number, I would just wrap it with a number with N capital. So there you go. Okay. And then if I console log type of age string, I would get string, right? I would get string. So this is one way. Another way is, which is a little bit weird, but it's more efficient for the kind of concatenation. So let's look at it. So what I'm going to do is, let's say if I want to say, I want to use this age number and I want to concat it with some other words, right? So statement equal to, let's say I want to say I am 21, right? So first of all, I'm going to say I am, right? And then I'm going to say plus, and I'm going to add this age number. See, this is called implicit conversion, because when I do this, it automatically going to convert string to it, right? Because this is a string and this is a number. So it's going to convert this to a string, which makes much more sense, right? And then I would say, I am 21 years old, right? So, and then if I console log statement, I would get, that statement. The caveat here is it kind of jumbles everything together because I need some space. So what I have to do is I need to put some space here and I need to put some space here. And then, yeah. So this is an implicit way of converting number to a string. I'm not intentionally converting or explicitly converting by putting, string around it. Because it's a number, it's going to automatically convert into a string because, when you add string and a number, the output is supposed to be a string, right? Because we know that it cannot convert this to a number, which means it's going to convert this to a string, right? Which makes much more sense. But this is also called interpolation, right? Because I'm interpolating some value into a string, right? But the better way of doing this, because this has a couple of issues. What if I want to have some, like after this line, I am, and then I want to put a line break. And if I run this, it will give me a problem because, hey, you can't have a line break because it thinks that my line ended here, right? So doing this way, it has a lot of issue. You can do this for simpler stuff, but this is not the best way. So for that, we're going to use a different a string method called template string. Template string. Okay. And the way template string works is so let's say let statement 1 equal to, you use something called backtick. Backtick, mostly you don't use backtick. This is how it looks like. If you, on a Mac, it's under the escape key, which is on the far top left side. It's a 1 key down. It's next to number 1 on a Mac. I don't know where is it on the PC. You have to find that out because I have a Mac. And I forgot where it is usually, but you
It's pretty much the same on the PC. It's with a tilde.
Yeah. It next to a tilde. Yeah. It's the same key with tilde. Yeah. Cool, thank you. So you would use this instead of double quotes or single quotes. And anything that is created with this, it's considered as a template string. So the templates, the characteristic of a template string is much more flexible. So I can do this, I am, and then I can break it up and, whatever. I can build a paragraph, okay? And let me just comment this out. Well, I'm just going to change this to statement 1 and run this. As you can see, it created a paragraph, right? So this is much better way when you want to do, a complex string manipulation, right? Now, let's go back to that, okay, interpolation part. So now I don't have to use plus sign here. I can simply take the age number, okay, and then say years old. But in order for it to know that this is actually not just a regular string, it's a variable, you just have to do this, $, and then this. This means this is a number, or this is, I'm interpolating this variable, not necessarily number, basically. Say, hey, interpolate. So you see, I'm not using any plus sign. What it does, it says, okay, whenever I use $, and these curly brackets, anything that is between, it needs to replace it with a variable. So it finds that and then replace it here, right? So this is called template string, right? So this is another way of implicitly converting. Well, this is explicitly converting, because just using this explicitly converts a number to a string, right? Yeah. So you can use any method, depends on what, what's your applications. Let's try this out.
So is that you don't need the uh, the ending that we usually use?
Oh, you mean the semicolon?
Yeah.
Oh no, semicolon. Anyway, semicolons are not, how do I say this? They're not mandatory, but I always put them in, so it's more readable. Yeah. So there's no difference here. The only difference is this backtick instead of double quotes. And then because it's a backtick, it doesn't require this plus sign and all that stuff. So if I want to put space here, it automatically gives me the space, right? Here, I have to put the space in here and here, right? So this is more clean looking. And if I'm doing a lot of these interpolations, then this makes much more sense. Also, the cool thing about this is anything that I do inside this curly brackets, remember here, it's implicitly converts this into a string, right? The problem with this also is, let me show you with a different example. I'll give you guys a few minutes to try this out, and then I'll show you a different example. Anyone still working on it? Okay, so I'll give you a different example where you would see using a template string makes much more sense. So let's say if I have, let number 1 equal to, let's say, 5, right? And I have a let number 2 equal to 9. And then I want to say, let's just use a regular string first. I want to say I have, what I'll do is I want to use this plus this, and then dollar, right? So this should give me, I have $14, right? Because I'm adding 2 numbers. So let's try this. Oh, I didn't put the console log. Right. But it says I have $59 because what happens? It does an implicit conversion where it converts this into a string and this into a string. And then when it adds it, even though they're numbers, it gets added like this, right? So this is a problem because this gives you unexpected results, right? Because of this implicit conversion. Instead, I can use, let's use a statement 1. I can use a backtick. I can say I have, and then remember, I would use this. And inside, I would do the calculation. Okay. So in this case, anything that happens within this dollar sign and then curly brackets, it first does this calculation, right? So it treats as a number, it says a number. So it adds those 2 numbers, which gives you 14. And then it interpolates. And so it converts into 14 into a string and adds it in here, right? So by just say 1, I would get, I have $14, right? So this is the power of template string. Yeah. So now you get the conversion, right? You sometimes have to convert number to a string or string to number, depend on the situation. Let's try this out. All right. Any questions? Okay. So as I said, these are very with practice, you will have more experience with it. So try these things out, in your spare time. And again, I will give you, once we get to a point where we have, covered some of the bigger stuff, I'll give you homework that is a little bit complex. So you have to use something like this, right? So, okay. So in that, I'm going to move forward to the next conversion. What if I want to convert something to a Boolean? Let's say string to a Boolean. Why would I do that? Any idea? String to a Boolean.
Well, it's a yes and no. Sometimes when you do a select in HTML, it comes out as a string, but you actually want to use it as a yes and no.
Okay, HTML comes out as a string, but you want to use it a yes or no?
Or as an object.
No. So I don't specifically think converting strings into a Boolean makes any sense. But in JavaScript you could, and the way it has a specific use case. So let's do this. This is quite weird. Why it does? I think no other languages do that. Only JavaScript does this. Other languages like C++, if you try to convert string to a Boolean, it would not let you do that. So let's say if I have a name, okay, and I want to convert into a Boolean. So okay, what I will do is Boolean and then pass that name string inside. So now you know that I want to convert something to a string. I just wrap it this string with a capital S. If I want to convert something to a number, wrap it with number with capital N. If I want to convert into a Boolean, it's the Boolean with capital B, right? And if I console log this, what would I get? That's really strange, but it has its use case. So if I run this, it would give me true, because remember, the Boolean is only true and false, right? So converting Peter to true doesn't make any sense, right? So the way it works is this: if string has any value, right, whether it's basically any length, whether it's a or Peter or I love you, a sentence, right? All of them gives you true. The only value where it would no, it would not work backwards. That would be kind of crazy, right? True cannot become Peter. Peter becomes true. So the only time this gives me false is if it's an empty string. So this is really crazy what JavaScript does. So basically, if I want to check if my string is empty or not, I can use this. That's the only time I can think of this, right? And again, it's not a reverse. Just like number, if I have a 21, I can convert into a 21 string or 21 number, right? Here, I cannot convert back. So once it becomes false, I cannot convert back to a string and get back, Peter, right? So that doesn't work that way. So this is a more strange conversion. Empty string, it's false. Non-empty strings are true. So there are times when I want to check if so let's say if in a user interface, you have, let's form, and then people enter stuff, right? And then click on submit. You can check each value to see if they have entered something or not by checking converting it to a Boolean. If it gives you false, which means they haven't entered anything, and you can warn them, say, hey, you need to enter a name because it's a required field, right? Now there are other ways to deal with it, which we're going to learn. Converting it to Boolean, and not the most efficient way because it doesn't make sense, but it works. So same thing with a number. If I have, let's say, number 5, right? And if I convert into Boolean, it will give me true. If it's 50, it will give me true, or 5,000, it will give me true. The only value that it will not give me true is 0. The 0 is false, any other number is true. Same thing with string. Empty string is false, all other strings are true. Okay. So yeah. Cool. Any questions? All right. So these are type conversions, right? So the next thing we're going to learn about is string methods. String methods, oftentimes once you get your string, you might want to manipulate it, right? When I say manipulate it, it means change it, get values out of it, so let's take a look at an example. So let's say if I have name equal to Peter, right? I want to know the length of the string, right? When I say length is how many characters there are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters, right? So JavaScript has a method for strings, and the way it works is I'm going to call it len, which means length, name dot length. So I can just put a dot and use length to let's say console log len. It should give me 5, right? Oh, I always spell this wrong. If you have wrong spelling, you get in trouble. Okay, so you get 5. So you can see the number of characters, right? This is very useful. Oftentimes you have to check the length of the string, right? So let's say if you have a form, HTML form, and then a user is supposed to enter, let's say, social security number. And social security numbers are what? 9-digit numbers, right? And when they enter that, and then what if somebody enters 10-digit or less than that? So by checking the length, you can see how long it is, right? So it helps you with the validation in a form. There are lots of other uses. You can check whether something is empty or not, right? So remember we learned about converting to a Boolean. This is a better way of checking. So you can check if the length is 0, do something. If its length is non-zero, do something else, right? Yeah, so you're going to be using length a lot. Let me give you a resource. This is a very good resource. It's called, you can search on this, let's say, string methods. And actually, this is a pretty good source. I can share you. Where's that? Oh, not Python. JavaScript string methods. That is a pretty good one. But I'm just going to share it in the chat. So the first one is a string method, right? The length. And, you know, which we already know this one. You can also do replace. This is a good one as well. So what replace does is, let's say if I want to, let's try this. Let's say if I have, you know, I love football, right? And I want to change football to, let's say, I don't know, ping pong. The way to do this is, let's call it, well, statement. I'm going to call this new statement. And then I'm going to, so all the methods use after dot. So I can say, not name, sorry, statement and dot and replace. And then you provide two arguments. The first one is what you want to replace. I want to replace football. So I'll put football. And then what are you replacing with? So ping pong. Okay. So what it does, it finds the very first football in this statement and then replace with ping pong. So if I did this, I would say I would get I love ping pong. Let's try this. Just type any statement and replace with your favorite word. Oh, hello, Professor. I see you're here. Yeah, so we covered, so far we covered where we left off last time, which was primitive data types, and then type conversion. So, you know, like string to number, number to string. Then some of the odd ones like string to a Boolean, you know. We also covered a little bit of template string. And then now we are on string methods, right? So
yeah, this is great.
you don't have to remember all these methods. You with programming, what I learned is, you know, I started learning programming a long time ago. In those days, I'm pretty old. In those days, they used to have books. Now, we still do books, but I don't think any of us use books for programming, right? If I want to learn history, I can, you know, I can have a history book, because history doesn't change that much, right? At least, you know, if obviously there are new things gets added, right? But because it doesn't change, you know, books are good. But for programming, things change pretty much weekly basis, I would say. And imagine if somebody starts writing a book, by the time they finish it, it could be a couple of months or even more. Then it goes to the publishing house, and then there's a marketing and all that stuff. So it could take about 5-6 months to get the book out. And then by the time you purchase it, because let's say you're late to this game, and by the time you purchase it's even longer than that. And then so what happens is that by then they have new things or a different way of doing things, or the things that are in your code is deprecated. Deprecated meaning it's no longer valid. You can use it, but you're not supposed to. It allows you to do that. So you won't see that much. I mean, you would see a lot of things added in JavaScript. You won't see like that much deprecation every 6 months, but then there are some deprecation every year or so, right? JavaScript, as I said, it's pretty flexible, but you don't want to use old stuff for many different reasons, right? So I always say, when you search for your resources, when you Google something, you can always look at the dates, right? I always, in a Google search, there's a published date or something, right? Or you can go to something very official where, they have that I can trust, official websites that I can trust, right? And I can look at that. Okay, cool. So that's how to replace it, right? You can replace it all. For example, if I say I love football, okay, and run this, it will only replace the first football that it finds. So, right, so it says I ping pong love football. So the last two footballs are not replaced, only the first one. If you want to replace everything, then you can say replace all. I think that is a syntax. Let's see. Oh, it's a capital. See, even I don't remember all the syntax. You don't need to remember all the syntax. The way to deal with this is you need to know what are the primitive data types and type conversion and all that stuff. This stuff are pre-built, which means, let's say I want to replace something in a string. That's my requirement. Then I would just search on Google saying how to replace string in JavaScript, right? And you will find replace. And then you try that and it doesn't work because it only replaces one. Then you say, hey, I want to replace all the strings in JavaScript. And then it gives you replace all. That's how you learn. You don't have to remember, because if you try to memorize all these things, it will be too much information. Obviously, if you have really good memory, great for you, right? But I have really terrible memory. Half the time I forget all of these stuff, right? So, but I know there's something like this exists, and that's how I survive. Okay. So yeah. Replace all. If I try this, it will replace all the football to ping pong, right? So, then there are search, which is pretty interesting. And we haven't learned the regex, so don't worry about the search. Trim. You can trim something. So in this example, you see there are spaces before and after, empty spaces, and that could happen, right? You might get some situation where there are empty spaces. We'll remove it, not from the middle, only from the around it, right? So trim would trim the extra spaces from around it. There's also a left trim. I forgot, where is this left trim, or there's also left trim and a right trim. Oh, And trim. Okay, I'll leave it up to you. You can always search it. This would be it. I'm gonna have an exercise in your homework where you have to do that. So make sure you search for it. Okay, but in that case, I say I want to only trim from the front. Then there is a trim start or something, and trim end would trim from the end, right? You can also find things inside. You can say, give me, index of. This is a good one. So you have a statement, JavaScript is not Java, right? And I want to say, is there a VA inside, and where exactly that is, right? So if I look at VA, it's right here, right? So it will give you the index, and index is nothing but which character. So 1, 2, like that. And usually, always in JavaScript, index start from 0. So J is going to be 0, A is going to be 1, V is going to be 2. So if I'm looking for VA, it will give me 2. That is, say, hey, starting 2, I found this, right? So index of is pretty important, but it only finds the first one, right? There's a trick. So let's say I have so many of these JavaScript, right? It finds the first one, first match. So what if, how do I find the second match? So you need to provide starting from. So once you find the first one, then you can say, okay, I found the first one at the index 2. So then I'm going to say, okay, from index 3, I want to find the next one, right? So you can actually write the code to find the next one and the next one and the next one. You can also do last index, so which finds things from the right side. So the last index of starts to look things from the right side as well. So I would suggest go through all of these. There are great examples that are given here in the resource that I've provided, right? Save this resource and then, try this out and see how they work and understand it, play around with it, right? And so that gives you, a lot of confidence. Okay. Any questions? Okay, cool. All right. So I think we are at the last topic, which is operators. So what are the operators? JavaScript has lots of different operators. The first operator we're going to learn is arithmetic operators. So anything that helps you do all the math, right? The arithmetic operators. Plus, minus, subtraction, division, power of something or remainder of something. They're all math operators, or in a sophisticated language, you call it arithmetic operators, right? So let's look at a few of them. Let's say if I have a number, number 1 equal to 1, right? Number 2 equal to 2, right? And if I want to add those two numbers, I can say let a result equal to number 1 plus number 2, right? This is typically how you do math, outside coding, right? So right. So let me clean this up and run this. So you get 3. Makes sense. Subtraction is minus, the same as the normal subtraction. So this would give me 1 minus 2, it's -1. Division, also as a normal division, it should give me 0.5, right? 1 divided by 2. The only thing that is not normal is multiplication. So for multiplication, I have to use asterisk. Anyone know why that is the case? And typically we would use like this, right? But in this case, we use asterisk. Anyone know why they have decided to use asterisk instead of, you know, multiplication sign? Any guesses? There's always some sort of reason, right? Yeah.
Because it's just a symbol.
Yeah, it needs to be a symbol. It cannot be any character from an alphabet.
Right.
Right. So plus sign is not an alphabet, right? Like A, B, nothing. It's not from A to Z. Minus sign is not. Division is not. So multiplication shouldn't be either, right? It should be a special symbol, and asterisk is a special symbol, which closely resembles to X, I would say. Hence the, you know, yeah. So since we are on that note, if I want to do power of something, right? So the symbol is double asterisk. That gives you power of something. So let's say a simple one would be 2 power 2, you know, supposed to be what? It's not a math test, but that's true. But what should be the 2 power of 2? Come on. Have you forgotten everything about the not 8, not 8. 4, yes. 2 to power 2 is 4. All right.
I have a question about the math.
Yeah.
Is it used somewhere in computer science? Probably.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Is it like in the
Everywhere.
front end too? I know it's a big one on in the back end.
Front end, back end. I think you cannot escape math for a lot of reasons, right? Think about, you might have to do some, and I can give you many different reasons. Let's say on a front end, for example, I have to, you know, I make a request to the server, okay, and I'm gonna because, you know, when I make a request to server, I don't know when the server is going to respond, right? So I need to wait for certain milliseconds, right? I cannot wait for seconds. It usually is in milliseconds. So if I wait for, let's say, 1,000 millisecond, which is a second, right? Then if I have to wait additionally, I have to add more, you know, another 1,000, right? So there is a lot of math in it. If I want to check this, you know, length of a string and then add something to it, there is a math. Obviously, a lot of application requires, you know, some sort of calculation inside, right? Any complex application would have some sort of math inside. So yeah, you cannot escape math. I would say you're not gonna do calculus inside your, though it does have a capability to do calculus, but you're not gonna do any calculus inside your code. That probably, in order to do that, you probably use some sort of a library that somebody else has created. But these, what I'm talking about is the multiplications, summation, power of something, remainder, right? Those things you have to do quite a bit, even in front end.
But not pre-calculus or calculus, you mean?
No, not in calculus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are all safe. Yeah. Yeah. I just a little bit off topic. When I was in high school and the first time I learned the calculus, I was so confused. And I told my teacher, am I ever gonna use that? And he said, he said something interesting. He said, and also for trigonometry, right? Which is the same thing, right? Cos and sine and all that stuff, right? And I was like, in a normal day-to-day use, I'm never gonna use. He said, no, but it will definitely make you smarter when you go and whenever you have a complex problem, you can think in terms of, in that sense, and it will definitely let you go in a higher higher position, in a science or math. Obviously in a management you don't need it, but if you go in a science field or a math field, and luckily I'm in computer science field, and I don't think I've used in calculus, but whenever I see a problem, I know I can visualize it as a calculus problem. Okay. And I can formulate and all that stuff. Again, also calculus, is also different a field. I studied electrical engineering eventually. My major was never computer science. I learned electrical engineering, which is way complex than computer science. Computer science is easy peasy. There's not much math involved. Electrical engineering is all math, and it was all calculus. So I went into electrical engineering. One of the first problem I had to solve is, you take a picture and then convert it to a JPEG. Okay. Or I took an image processing class where you take a picture of a heart, and I need to find out all the arteries inside, and highlight it. It's image processing, and image processing, it's all math, and I had to use something called Fourier transform and all that stuff. Thankfully I didn't have to write it because somebody also already has written the Fourier transform for me, so I just used it. But even if you use it, you need to understand what's going on, right? So yeah, for the front end, you probably never have to use any kind of complex math, but I think you would use these arithmetic operators on a regular basis, I would say. Cool. So we learned plus, minus, division, subtraction, power. Oh yeah, Professor, yeah, your opinion on this one.
But this works like the same as regular math. Also, like if you have a multiplication and a sum, the multiplication will happen first. So that's when you can have an inserted bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Even like wanting, like, I don't know, there's regular rules for math. So what I mean is, if you have if your result was like num1 plus num1 and then times 2, I don't know if that will work. I'm trying to figure out the result. So
Yeah.
it will happen first. The multiplication will happen first.
Yeah, something like this, right? Yeah. So you can
So yeah.
get 6.
Does that happen that first? So in order to, I don't know, in Java, oh, sorry, I'm going to mix that. So we put the parentheses if we want the math to happen first, right?
Yeah. So PEM does, right? Oh yeah, somebody else is already said. Yeah, PEM does. Yeah. So in JavaScript, if you want to force certain things, you put a parenthesis. So if I did this, which means I want to multiply 2 plus 3 and then plus 5, right? That gives you 11. But what if I want to do this? I want to do 3 plus 5 and then multiply by 2, right? So this is 8, right? Multiply by 2, that's 16, right? Then give it 16. So you can use a parenthesis. If you don't use it, then I think it will use PEMDAS, I believe. But I always use parentheses. This way I know what I can make sure that what I have is the right calculation. There's also remainder. So remainder is, so let's say if I divide 3 by 2, right? Obviously I get 1.5, but if I want to find the remainder, the remainder would be 1, right? If we divide 3 by 2. So you can find the remainder by num1 and then use a percentage sign num2. Right? Let me clear this. And so this would give me 1. Also, a lot of times when you go for an interview, they will ask you some problem. Oftentimes it's math related. So one time they gave me, if I was given a number, let's say they would say, okay, this is the number. I want to know if this is a prime number or not, right? So, you need to know what the prime number is, first of all. Also, like a lot of times when you do statistics, right? So for example, let's say your website statistic coming in and you want to do, average or median and things like that. You have to use some sort of math, right? Yeah. So yeah, these are all arithmetic operators. They're more than this. You can obviously Google, JavaScript operators. And I mean, there are lots of different, arithmetic operators, so it's got lots of it, right? Well, arithmetic operators are not a lot, but, okay. So let's go to the next operator, comparison operator. Oh, assignment operator. Let's go to assignment operator. Anyone know what an assignment operator is? We are already using one.
Equal.
Yeah, equal sign is an assignment, right? So if I say let x equal to 1, equal sign is an assignment, right? There are a few more assignment operators that makes your life easier. There should be only one, which is equal sign, but JavaScript created multiple of these. So let's say if I want to say I have x equal to 1, I want to add 1 to it. So I can say x equal to x plus 1, right? Which means add 1 more to the existing value of x. So right now the value is 1. So it's going to take that existing value and add 1 to it, which makes it 2. And then it would set that value for the x. So now x is going to be 2, right? So if I console log this, I would get 2. Right? But there's an assignment operator that makes this much simpler. And to do that, I'm just going to comment this so that okay, so this is an assignment operator. This is exactly the same thing. X plus equal to 1 means add 1 to x. It's kind of weird syntax, but once you get used to it, you always use this. You'll never use this. Similarly, you can do -1 as well. This basically subtracts 1 from x, right? And you can also use, all of these operators. Multiplication, division, even do percentage, which is remainder, right? You can do also, I think you can do this as well. Let's see. I don't use, these stuff, but yeah, basically 1 power to 1. That's what it means. But you will rarely use this, but mostly, these one you would use. Plus equal to, minus equal to are the probably most common that you would use. Okay. Any questions? All right. Next operator is comparison operator. Comparison operators, basically you can compare two things, whether they are equal or not, right? So let's say if I have x equal to 1, let y equal to 1. So the value of x and y is exactly the same, right? So if I want to compare them, I can say result equal to x double equal y. So single equal sign is an assignment operator. Double equal sign is comparison operator. Anyone know what the result, what comparison would be? What data type would be?
Boolean, maybe?
Boolean, true.
Yeah. Boolean. Because if you're comparing, you want to get true or false, right? Are they equal or not? If they're equal, you'll get true. If they're not, you get false, right? So if I do console.log and result, I would get true. But if I change this to, let's say, one of them to true, 2, now they're not equal, which means I will get false. Now, the double equal sign is a little bit tricky because when JavaScript started, they wanted to be really flexible, and then I think they made some like really serious mistakes by making it too flexible. So I can create, I can compare 0 to an empty string and all kind of stuff gives you true, right? So you might get some unpredictable results. So what you want to do is instead later on they came up with this triple equal sign, because I don't think they ran out of ideas and they were like, okay, we already have a double equal sign. So triple equal sign, it does the true comparison. It also takes the type in count. So, otherwise double equal sign, I think would work on this comparison as well. So it compares 1 to string 1, and it'll say, oh, this is true, but this is not really true, right? So you always want to use triple equal sign to compare, not double equal sign. So whatever you know about double equal sign, just forget about it and throw it away. Yeah, there is no case where you want to use double equal sign. So always use triple. Yes, always use triple equal sign. You can also do not equal, right? Not equal is the opposite of equal, which means if they're not equal, then it will give you true, right? So in this case, they're equal, which means this will give you false. It's completely opposite the equal sign, right? So let's see. This gives you false. Right? You can try this out. So this exclamation point works as a not. It's an inverter, basically. So triple equal is comparison, exclamation, and double equal is not equal. What other kind of comparison can you do? Any ideas? Yeah. Greater than or less than, right? I want to know if x is greater than y, or x is less than y, or x is less than equal to y, or greater than equal to y. So these are also operators that helps you compare in that sense. All right. Yeah, so Professor, is there anything I missed here? I think that's all comparison.
No, the comparisons, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. If you look at this, there are a lot more. So, this resource you would find, like, and again, ignore, you see the, not this, this is not equal to, yeah, they'll show you, this is called strict equal and not equal. So just forget about these stuff, right? Because they're old. There's a bitwise operator as well. I would say do not worry about the bitwise. It gets really complex. Again, you can do like binary magic with this one. So I would not even bother looking at it. Next one we're going to look at is logical operators. So logical operators are, okay, I have an interesting example. So let's say you have done your homework, right? Which is true. But what if you forget to submit your homework, which is false? Should you get the grade? You've done the homework, but you haven't submitted the homework. Then you don't get the grade because I don't know that you've done the homework, right? So how do I say this in a logical way? In this case, if you want to get the grade, both condition needs to be true, right? So if I say get grades equal to, I would say done homework and submit homework, right? It should be submitted homework, but anyway. So if they're both true, then they get grades equal to. All other condition, you'll get false. So let's say you have not done the homework and you have not submitted the homework. Obviously, if you haven't done the homework, you're not going to submit it, right? It's a false. Well, you can submit the empty stuff, but then you'll get false because, you know, you haven't done the homework, right? So this is called AND operator. And like it says, the both situation needs to be true for the result to be true. It's a very simple concept, right? Then there's an OR operator. Anyone can think of a situation for OR where one of them needs to be true. Only one of them needs to be true for the situation to be true. Any real life situation.
Maybe something like it's gonna rain or not.
Okay. It's gonna rain or not. Okay. So, okay, so that's a one. So let's just say let is, okay, you have to explain to me what you need two things, right? So what is the first one?
It's going to rain.
Okay. Is going to rain. Okay. So that's a true or false. Okay. What is the second one?
It's not going to rain.
Oh, no. That just part of,
So it needs something else.
yeah. Okay. I'll give you an interesting example. 8 candy equal to true. 8 cake equal to true. So let is not hungry equal to, if I ate candy or ate cake, I'm not going to be hungry, right? If I eat both, yeah, I'm going to be really full. But the only time I'll be hungry if I did not eat the cake nor I ate candy, right? As long as I ate something, I'm not going to be hungry. Make sense? So this is an OR. This is called pipe operator. this is next to the it's the same button with a /. Okay. Anyone can give me a different example now that you kind of understand it? If I weight lift or I can run, I have exercise either, right? Okay, so Angie said if I do the dishes or do my bed, I did the chores. Yeah, there you go. That's a good example, right? So by doing one thing, I'm satisfying my requirement. That's an OR. For and, I have to do both things to satisfy the requirement, right? And that's the difference. So oftentimes you would use this in, let's say you build a user interface. Let's say you have a form, right? Where you need to enter, like, say, name and your birthday. Okay. And they're both required fields, which means you have to have a name and you have to have a birthday for the form to be submitted, right? And if you enter only one and submit, it would flag you. So it will check. It would say, is name equal to true? And is birthday equal to true? If not, submission won't happen, right? So this is how it works. Any questions? All right. There's a last one, which is not operator. It's a kind of a conundrum. You're calling a not operator, but it's an operator. It's a not operator, which is an operator. That's a joke. So not operator is, let's say x equal to true. Okay. And I can say console log the exclamation symbol and then x. That actually converts true into false and false into true, right? So it's an inverter, right? There are times when you want to do that. So it's an inverter. So it converts true to false, false to true. Anyone know here a Boolean algebra? Like truth table and all that stuff? Boolean algebra, logical operators. So they're all used, all of these is done using logical operators. Okay. Yeah, any questions? So I think that was the last operator. Professor, did I miss any important operator?
No, I think you covered them all.
Yeah.
Trying to see it. I was looking on the table.
Yeah, there are some operators that, but I would say don't, like, especially as I said, bitwise operator and all, they're pretty complex. You can do really good magic with it, but I would, for this class, I would not. It just create more confusion. So
Mhm.
I would not recommend it. But yeah, pretty much all the operators in this, yeah. So operators lets you, do kind of mathematical stuff, comparison, assignment, logical stuff. Okay, so I think next time I'm thinking mostly we can go over the if else statement and things like that. Because now, we can use the comparison operators to check the situation and make decision, right? So if else statements lets you make decisions based on the condition, right? So you can say if it's raining, take umbrella. Okay. An example to use nor. NG said. Yeah, nor is so nor is an or operator with explanation. So it's opposite to or, right? Which means invert the or becomes a nor operator. Yeah. Actually, an example would be of nor operator. I can tell you. So NG was asking what example to use nor operator. So nor is an interesting. So let's say so nor is, let's say if you have x equal to true, and then let y equal to also true. We already know let z equal to x or y, right? So if one of them is true, the z is true. But I can do this. I can put not in front. This becomes a nor operator. It's completely reverse of or. Okay. This means z is true only when they're both false, right? In or, z is true when they are, at least one of them is true, right? So reverse would be, it's true only when they're both false. So let me run, and I'll give you an example, which is an interesting one. So if I run this, hold on, let me first clear it. So true. Oh, I didn't console.log z. So this is false. If I have one of them false, this would also be false. The only time it's true is they're both false, right? So it's an inverse or, that's called nor. Example of nor would be, let's say you have a security system in your house, and let's say somebody opens a window, the alarm would go on, right? Somebody opens a door, the alarm would go on. The only time the alarm would not go on is when everything is closed, right? So open is true, close is false. So if the window is closed and the door is closed, right, then the alarm is then it's on in terms of security is on, right? But if one of them is open, the security is off, right? So that's an example of a NOR operator. Yeah. There is actually NAND also. NAND is basically, I don't want to go too much in detail, but NAND is basically reverse of AND and all that. So, but anyway, then we are going into you know, the Boolean algebra, which is a science in itself. So, yep. Any questions? All right. So I have a little bit of homework for you guys, which you can, it's in the canvas. So please, it should not take too long. It's based on what we learned today. It should take maybe like a half hour maximum. Okay. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
the recording.
Yeah, hold on, just sharing.